very fortunate to have with us today Mr. Subir Das, General Manager, ECGC Limited. Mr. Das is an extremely experienced leader. He holds an MSc degree in chemistry and then an MBA in finance. He joined ECGC in 1995 and has served the organization in various capacities across different cities. During his service at ECGC, he has worked in different departments at the head office as well as branch offices. He headed the ECGC branches at Bhubaneswar and Delhi, and also the policy claims department at the head office. He was a regional manager, Eastern region from June 2016 to June 2019. And since then, he is holding the position of general manager at the corporate office of ECGC. And in that role, he has been looking after key areas of operations such as policy planning, project exports and NEIA, buyer and policy underwriting, policy claims and recoveries, etc. He has participated as a panel speaker in many international seminars and also represented ECGC in various trade and industry forums. He is currently the Chief Underwriting Officer, Policy ST of ECGC. With that, Mr. Das, welcome to this webinar on the importance of export credit insurance in the new normal. We have several exporters, bankers, corporates, SMEs, all here waiting to listen to you. So we are very fortunate to have you, and thank you for taking your time to be here. My first question is, this must be a very busy period for all of you at ECGC. I know that all of you have continued working through this crisis remotely first, and now, as we can see in the office, how has ECGC adapted to remote working? And a lot of exporters have also wanted to know if you're operating at full capacity, given the massive constraints that you are facing.
Yeah, thank you once again for giving us the chance to share our thoughts on the critical issue of export credit insurance. As you know, it is nothing uncommon for us. It is common across the industry that they cannot operate in a scenario like unprecedented scenario like this, that you will have the full capacity to operate. But under this constraint, we are making rapid assessment of our operations, and we are working to the extent possible within the framework guidelines set for the state governments, as well as we are governed by the central government under the PAC's purview. So at the moment, I can say you most of our offices, barring few, wherever the offices are in the containment zone in certain cities, barring few offices, a few offices, maybe 4 or 5 at the moment. We are operational everywhere across the country, but with a constraint of the staff, physical presence of the staff in the office itself. 50%, at around 50% is available in the office, and rest of the people are working from remote places or working from home. And we're trying to manage so far so good, we would say, but under tremendous pressure from the point of view of service delivery as well as our internal operations. So our customers are having difficult times, so do we at the same time, but as much as possible, we try to accommodate customers' requirement to the possible extent.
Right, sir. I've seen how, ECGC was amongst the first of the block to set up bus services, etc. for its staff, even in the early days of as soon as the Unlock 1.0 was announced, to get people into the office, and it's very, very impressive what you all did. Sir, I've always said when I've spoken to exporters that having export credit insurance is critical for exporters, especially SMEs. And this is to grow their business profitably without worrying about credit risk or political risk of countries. With COVID-19, now this is not even critical, sir, it is an imperative. Given that there are so many exporters, SMEs, bankers and corporates with us today, can you share some of the things that ECGC is doing to cope with the increased demand for credit insurance in today's environment?
Yeah, I would like to answer this from the perspective of our existing customers as well as the new acquisition or prospects what we are receiving. No, as far as the existing, because that is a major priority. Our existing customers should not suffer because probably they could not operate to the extent they were expected to during the initial days of the lockdown. Now that little window is open, unlockdown phase and all these things, now the pending orders which are to be executed, we need to push them towards that. So that is a major priority. So taking into account the requirement of the exporters as well as the banks, because we do have two segments of business. One is for our exporter customer, another is for the banks. I'll come a little later about this utilities and all these things. So what we are doing, we have initiated certain relief measures for the existing customers, as well as it will impact the new customers also. So some of the relief measures, if I can talk about these things, it's an insurance contract, the service we are providing within the ambit and the framework of an insurance company, because we are an insurance company, which is called credit insurance. So there are a lot of compliance requirement under the procedural aspects of this product. So some of the procedural aspects pertaining to the deadline, submission of the shipment declaration, payment of premium, and all these things are there. So in certain cases, like reporting of declaration of shipments or reporting of default or lodgement filing of claim, we have extended the period of lockdown. See, initially we did it up to whatever deadline was there, up to 30th June we extended. Then beyond that, up to 31st August, we have further extended, and if need be, we will further extend it depending upon the situation of unlockdown phase, whatever various respective governments are doing, state governments are doing. So one is that deadline framework has been modified. Second is that we have given waiver of the processing fee to the extent of 50% of the various policy schemes. As well as I would be happy to inform you, and it is known to the exporters customers, that we have waived the credit information fee altogether. So somebody is approaching us for the credit limit, they had to pay 500 rupees or something like that per application. That has been waived for the time being for this lockdown period. Apart from this, more important now, how to manage the risk, that we are empowering the exporters. We are giving lot of delegation to the exporters on their discretion. Now what is happening, typically your business is disrupted, and it is an unique situation. It is not only in India, even the export destinations are also suffering from the same kind of problem. So naturally, your logistical issues are there, your production issues are there, your customs clearance issues are there. So goods are, even though you have sent the goods are lying undelivered at the destination port or mid-sea or somewhere are there. So we have given a lot of discretion with regard to salvage the situation, with regard to extension, with regard to distress sale, with regard to reimportation back to India. Exporter can do on their own. Earlier, they are mandated to take approval from ECGC.
Correct.
Which is no longer there. So these are the measures we have given. Discretion has been allowed to the exporter so that they can cope up with the situation they are facing, unprecedented situation they are facing while they are executing the export contract. So that is for the existing customer. As regards new propositions are concerned, as you have rightly pointed out, there is a growing demand for export credit insurance that we are seeing for last 2-3 months. There we are taking conscious underwriting measures. We have to see, we are still, as an insurer, we have to work in a regulatory framework.
Correct.
So there are a lot of regulations. We have to maintain the solvency. We have to maintain the exposure norm. So we are seeing to what extent we can accommodate the requirement of the exporter. So priority has been given to the small MSME exporters, small and medium sectors exporters, those who contribute to our 90% of the overall portfolio.
Right.
And it is a mandate of the government that we should stretch an extra hand to this kind of exporters who are under tremendous pressure under this situation. So normally we are trying to accommodate them, their underwriting requirement, particularly those who are coming for a whole turnover kind of business proposition. Standalone cover, we are being very cautious as far as the destination is concerned, even the volume is concerned.
Correct.
So in that way, we are trying to accommodate the requirement of the exporters. We are seeing a growth in credit risk insurance demand, which is a good sign. I mean, which is expected, which is in the expected line, and ECG is poised to really to play the role as a facilitator to accommodate these requirements.
Right. So, and one of the things that I have learned from previous crises, and having been a student of risk and a risk practitioner for so many years,
True.
one of the things that I've learned is that you always think of your doctor when you fall sick or your insurer when
Yes.
an event is going to occur, but it should always be there, right?
Right.
Because otherwise you don't have that backup when you need it the most.
See, somebody did a study. I think some of the ECS have done a study recently. While they, I mean, after the lockdown and all these things, whatever happening all over the globe, now they studied particularly with respect to Asia. The finding is that now, though there is a problem with the payments and all these things, when they did the study, the respondents, out of the respondents, 50% they do not consciously adopted any risk mitigation or credit risk mitigation tool. Now, that is a kind of a wake-up call for the industry with the exporters and the all stakeholders.
Absolutely.
So in the form of credit insurance, the survey says only 15 to 16% people, I mean, respondent were aware and they are availing out of the total respondents. Some people are, of course, you are playing a very critical role. Some people are even more than the credit insurance, they are depending upon the credit information agency's report. So that is also they are factoring. But this is not adequate. This is a time they should really put the things in perspective, and it should understand what is the utility of this kind of thing, particularly in a scenario like this.
So I think you've used the right words, wake up call. I think it is very, very critical, for future, because, if you, Nicholas Nassim Taleb, who's written Black Swan, sir, he has said, I was listening to him speak, and he said long tail events, when the event occurs, they have a long tail, the impact will be, it can wipe your business out, it can wipe you out.
Right.
Those events are the ones that you have to protect against. You, as an insurer, the probabilities, it's a game of probabilities. But exporters should absolutely go for export credit insurance. There's no question. I have always maintained that, sir.
Yeah, in a way, I mean, it is a kind of a, I would say, it's a kind of a scenario where for the industry of credit insurance, we would welcome, at least awareness level will be increasing. That is the hope we are taking. And in a future, this credit insurance kind of, not only credit insurance, other risk mitigation tools will get some kind of precedence over other requirements of the business.
Perfect, sir. So I wanted to talk, this is a perfect segue into my next question, sir, and that's about bankruptcy filings, sir. In the US alone, more than 30 companies that have got a liability of over $1 billion have already filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. This includes JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, Brooks Brothers, Pier 1, all of them, and Indian exporters.
Also.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, in the UK, sir, you've got Debenhams, which has gone under, several others. Dr. Altman, who's the creator of the Altman Z-score and is a bankruptcy expert, he has projected that the number of large bankruptcies over $1 billion are going to be more than 60 by the end of the year, sir. This implies that there's going to be even tougher days for Indian exporters who have exposure to these companies that are filing for bankruptcy. How is ECGC preparing to deal with the enhanced claims of Indian exporters that may arise from these bankruptcies?
Well, I can only assure as of now, ECGC from the point of view of capacity to handle the situation, I can say we're well equipped. We stand well equipped. We are well provided for. Our solvency is pretty high as far as the regulatory norms are concerned. From that point of view, and that we are already IAAA rated company, marking the highest claim payability. So from that point of view, we are not worried as such, but of course, it is kind of a catastrophe which we have not seen in at least several decades. So the Z-score and all these things will be very significant. But more than that, we are much more vigilant and watchful about what is happening on a real-time basis, particularly the qualitative aspect. Of course, quantitative aspect will throw good insight, But qualitative aspect is equally important for us at the moment. It
Right.
is not like that we are looking into the factors like see I will typically say, see the Z score can be reasonably acceptable level based on the descriptive data, whatever it is there. It is more descriptive, less predictive, I would say.
Right.
Now,
Right.
so based on that, I cannot have a clear view what is going to happen, even 2 quarters looking ahead.
Yeah.
So the 2 quarters cash flow can put the company in the chapter 11.
Absolutely.
So these kind of things are happening. So we are very watchful about the real-time basis, what is happening actually. And credit agencies like you, who are our partners, we are expecting much more information to that extent. Suppose in a country like Dubai or anywhere, see, even the Z-score is good based on the past financial record or whatever it is, balance sheet information. But the thing is that if they are, that these countries can have this flight risk and all this risk are there.
Absolutely. Oh, massive. Yes, absolutely.
So we often come across, even if he reported good financials or whatever information we are getting from the various sources that financials have been good during the 17-18 or say 18-19 or something like that. Even for first quarter of the 19-20, if their trade license is expired and it is not renewed,
Right.
that can be a very critical scenario for us. Well, I
Right.
am underwriting the risk. So we are putting emphasis on this kind of information.
Right.
Whether
Right.
whether this TL is renewed, whether his name is there in any kind of Chamber of Commerce list or the economic department list or something like that. These are the information is more critical to us than I won't undermine the requirement of the financial report or the Z score or
Of
something
course.
like that. So these are the things we have to factor all these things. Transactional behavior is very important to us right now.
So
So
that's why, sir, they say that risk assessment and risk management is as much an art as it is a science.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
the
Art
factors
part is
that you said are very,
very important. Art part
right,
is
very,
very important. Very important.
very important, sir, very important. So a
Generally,
number of exporters are actually asking that, we've been doing business with a overseas company for years. There are strong companies, some of the names we mentioned. They've had to go into bankruptcy protection, Chapter 11, or whatever version there is in that specific country. If they file for bankruptcy protection, what happens? Do they get blacklisted by ECGC, or can they be covered again in the future?
yeah, I have objection with the phrase or word called blacklisting. We do
Okay,
not blacklist anybody. That is
perfect.
let it be very clear. We do not have the right to blacklist anybody. Only
Correct.
thing we exercise enhanced caution. That is
Caution.
the thing. That's why some of the entities we have to put in that caution list, where we
Right.
call it buyer specific approval list. So when we take any decision on underwriting, it is a considered decision. Because as you know, if you are aware of the ECC product, there are ample scope for discretionary limits also.
Right.
So
Right.
we cannot leave that discretion unhindered and unregulated or something like that. So we have to maintain this kind of list, seeing the patterns and the behaviors or the trends of the past record. So that is how this question, this concept of buyer specific approval list is there. Now, with regard to this scenario where the bankruptcies and all these things are happening, we are trying to help our exporters. If there is a serious issue, it's a chapter 7 or something like that, very difficult for us to help him out, something like that. But in a chapter 11 cases, we are taking a step-by-step approach where, in fact, we have done it so like that. We are seeing the reorder from the administrator or something like that, provided we are ready to extend our helping hand, we are ready to facilitate further exports, provided there is a concrete plan of debt retirement.
Right.
If there is a foreclosure, if there is some kind of restructuring plan, if there is some stipulated structure of repaying the debt over a period, then ECC will be open in a very calibrated manner. Otherwise, it is very difficult for us to take further exposure. As you know, our exposure is bulging in
Right.
terms of trend of difficult scenarios. So we have to be sustainable. So we cannot just allow it like that. But blacklisting will be a very, will be a misnomer in
Sure.
this context. While we are putting the buyer in a particular list, that BSL or something like that, we take a very considered view. we thoroughly analyze the buyer, we thoroughly analyze the experience of our exporters, because the buyers you are talking about this thing, they are big corporation, mega
Oh,
corporation. Some for
absolutely.
or other, some from or other, it's a known way of dealing with the credits, credit insurance or the liability in a short term or mid term basis. That is happening. It is nothing new now. It is only the frequency is more now. So it is not like that overnight we'll put everybody in that kind of restrictive list or something like that. We'll see the way it can be salvaged, or the recovery plan or the restructuring plan is there. Based on that, we'll take a decision.
So I think that's a great answer. It's a caution list, not a blacklist, and that you're looking at it from many perspectives, not in a in a blinkered way, which is great news for exporters. To all those who had asked that question, I hope that this does answer you. Our question lines are open on the Q&A tab. You can ask any question that you want.
In fact, I want to add, we
Yes,
have allowed manufacturing exporter to make further shipment in a scenario where the payments have not been realized during this lockdown period. We are allowing further shipments. That discretion we are giving to the exporters, provided they have this repayment plan and they have farm order in their hand. So manufacturing exporters, we are consciously allowing them. They don't have to take our prior approval also. They can go ahead and clear their stock and maintain the relationship with the buyer who are in temporary problem, cash flow problem. They can go ahead to make further shipments, provided certain safeguards they should exercise. See, it's normal care and prudence has to be taken.
No, absolutely. And that's excellent, sir. That's excellent news. So I watched a very good YouTube video about the ECGC buyer underwriting scorecard system, which you use as an analytical tool to decide the credit insurance limit for a particular buyer. This is based on 4 key parameters, which is related to the overseas buyer, which is industry, the business ability, financial strength, and transaction behavior. Can you please share some thoughts on how this underwriting scorecard system works? Because this will help us understand it.
So you have a fair idea. These are the broad parameters. These are the broad parameters: this business ability, financial information, transactional behavior, and industry. See, business ability, we are talking mostly about the nature of the business. Whether it is a big giant multinational or a partnership or LLP kind of a business, or what kind of industry, what kind of it's a branch or a subsidiary of certain big corporation. These kind of things we see.
Right.
We put it in a perspective and see what kind of trends emerging from this kind of entities for a given period of time. Similarly, financial is purely balance sheet data or financial information, what we are getting in the public domain. Transaction behavior is very important for us from the point of view of experience with ECGC, the exporter as well as the buyer. So that is given a huge weightage, because from the point of view of credit insurance, this transactional behavior is very critical for us, because in the recent past, or say 2-3 years time, we normally see, if we see the frequency of default is not occurring that much, that is a very good sign for the buyer. See, normally, generally in international trade, even before COVID, rarely you will find buyers are paying on time. That is a human tendency. Even for us, we pay our bills only on the last day. So it is a kind of a myth that everybody gets payment on the due date or something like that. So these kind of experiences are duly factored into and captured in our database, and that is how we treat this as a very important factor for underwriting on any kind of buyer or anybody. Industry is also important. The commodity sectors, countries, and all these things also taken, and their patterns and their trends in the recent past vis-a-vis the credit risk and all these things. These are taken. These are the broad parameters under which there are a number of sub-parameters. There are a number of sub-parameters based on which we assign certain weightage. Each parameter will have broadly these parameters, financial and the transactional behavior, gets the maximum weightage. Out of a score of 100, 40-30 is given to this. 70% is eaten up by this balance, business liability, and the industry. Under this broad category, there are sub-parameters. Financial will have sub-parameters, business ability will have transactional behavior will have sub-parameters. So we assign specific weightage to the sub-parameters also, and based on this, we arrive at a score. And that score will throw the extent of credit that can be given to a particular buyer at a particular point of time. It is a dynamic because
Correct.
we constantly update the record, we constantly update the experience, we constantly update the financial reports also. So today somebody is showing a very good score can be a toxic kind of scorecard we can get tomorrow. So that is
Tomorrow.
what is happening. So we review it. I mean, for a very, I can give you example. If somebody on whom I am taking an exposure on an aggregate basis on any buyer, I am taking exposure of 50 crore rupees. I will review it every 6 months.
Right.
Or even somebody, some big buyers like some of you have named. Already I have been monitoring the exposure because their exposure is excess of 100 crore.
Correct.
So they are every quarter they are being reviewed based on the reports received from the
Right.
credit agencies. So that is how we do it. It's a very dynamic exercise and it is helping us. Last past 7-8 years we have been using it. It is been dated now. We'll be updating it shortly in a way that so that we can capture even more relevant data. That I've told you earlier that real-time data, quality data is assuming very important significance.
Right. And again, sir, you nailed it because one of the things in qualitative data, one of the things that we are finding is that social media data,
True.
which talks about qualitative aspects, is playing a very, very important role in today's scoring, risk scoring across industry, across transactions, B2B, B2C, all
Right.
put together. But it's amazing that you all are.
We call it from the underwriting point of view, underwriters language, we call it whispers in the business corridor. So this is being captured in the social media. So we have to be alert all the time. Now I cannot say always these are all formal source of information
Correct.
or something like that, but that can be very critical at times.
It is. It is.
You get a good alert.
Correct. Correct, sir. So not everybody knows, but ECGC does a great job in tracking country risk. In fact, I have always encouraged exporters to keep an updated list of ECGC country risk ratings with them before they transact with overseas buyers. Could you share a little bit about the factors that ECGC considers in deciding the country risk rating? Like you said, in today's world, it's very dynamic right now, both from a political perspective, COVID perspective, every perspective, sir.
Yeah, regarding this COVID, we are making some rapid assessment. Of course, we do have a model like our buyer underwriting model. We do have a country underwriting model. It's a score. Again, we generate a score out of the various broad parameters like economic factors, then relationship with India, transactional behavior, experience of ECGC, experience of other ECAs all over the globe. Because I think we can discuss the issues of Berne Union. So we are a member of the Berne Union, which is the international union of all ECS across the world. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
I'm getting some messages.
Like, okay.
So we get all this information because we exchange information with our counterparts all over the world. So these are the factors: economic factors, political factors, geopolitics across the countries, India relationship. Like China can be a case now. So from that point of view, we always rate the countries, we always get a score on the countries, and then review the underwriting position on particular countries. So in that way, you may be aware that we have a country classification, 7-tier country classification in the descending order, ascending order of the risk perception. A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, D. So D is the highest risk category. So in that way, and that is a dynamic list again. So today somebody is D, he can be C1 today, tomorrow, and he can be so forth and something like that. So that is being done. That is also a very kind of a based on certain empirical information, as well as we get some structured information from the various agencies, global agencies. So we take the rating models, we take our in-house experience into account and the shared information with other ACS, and then we come to a kind of an exposure limit on the buyer as well as a rating on the buyer, countries. So that is how it operates, and it is fairly robust, I would say.
I think so. It's extremely robust. Barring something which is absolutely.
We are in business means it is robust.
Right. So cash flows are very tight for exporters, just like for everybody else. Hence, there are several questions that are coming about the period in which insurance claims are being settled by ECGC. How much time should an exporter realistically plan for before his or her claims are settled with ECGC or by ECGC, are there any proactive steps that exporters can take to help ECGC take quick decisions pertaining to their claims? Because exporters also have to be proactive, have to give stuff in time, sir. So what would you recommend?
See, though it is an insurance, it's a different kind of insurance. We are relying mostly, 100% of our claim processing based on documents. Unlike other insurance, it is survey based or something like that. General insurance, I'm talking. So it is purely based on documents. So we have to rely upon the documents submitted by the exporter. So our challenge is to persuade exporters or explain exporters the documents that are to be submitted along with the claim forms, which are often not the case. Now, the problem has compounded during these lockdown scenarios because export is happening. A lot of documentation itself goes into the exports transaction itself. So a lot of official documents are there, commercial documents are there, legal documents are there, and you need a lot of agencies involved in this kind of transactions. You need the help of the bank or something like that. So in the lockdown scenario, exporters are also constrained to provide all these things. So taking into account, first thing is that we are allowing more time to exporter to submit these documents. So there is a concept of insurance called claim time barred. We are not making harsh decision of making the claims time barred. We're allowing exporter. We are extending the deadline with regard to that. So that is one thing. As far as the actual issue of settlement of claim, problem is with us. It requires a lot of physical intervention. Unfortunately, the insurance sector is not equipped to deal with the claim scenario like us digitally. So we are of course, this is a kind of, again, a wake up call for the insurer to change their business model to align it more digital friendly, particularly service delivery, and claim is one key aspect with regard to that. So manual intervention is still unavoidable, but the thing is that we have manpower constraints. So we are rapidly always operational, we are assessing our operational requirements. So we are deploying maximum manpower to this claim. So whatever is not customer front-end support to the customers, we are replacing those manpower with the claim professionals. So claim professionals see, a lot of people are allowed to work from home, but all claim professionals are always coming to the office and trying to handle and dispose of the claim. That is the step. But thing is that because of this containment zones and all these things, because our offices are at various locations, so those kind of issues are always coming up. At the moment, we are trying our best to get the best services to the customer as far as claim and underwriting. These are the two key operational areas. So constraints are there, but we'll be doing our best. It is fully operational. That much I can assure.
Thank you, sir. So there is a woman exporter, not named, but she has just sent in a question. Is there any rebate in underwriting premium, I would assume, for women and entrepreneur exporters?
I will be personally very happy if that kind of, because we are regulated by the regulators. So we have to work in a framework for pricing. So pricing has to be as per the regulations. So based on, see, insurance pricing, like all other insurers are pricing their products, we have to do like that. I cannot do, being a Government of India organization, I cannot seem to be violating that thing. But the thing is that whenever, see, it is insurance pricing is always experience linked. So the segment, whatever is giving quite a favorable outcome, in future, we have to pass on the benefit to that segment. So at the moment, lady entrepreneur or somebody like that, I would be very happy to extend such kind of benefit, but unfortunately, we are not in a position to make that kind of concessions.
Okay, sir. So another one, this is Mr. Manish Sanghvi. He has sent in this question. Does ECGC provide export factoring without recourse to exporters?
We do have a product. I would say still in the nascent stage. It has not picked up. We're analyzing all the time. It is mainly for the manufacturing exporters having turnover up to 250 crore. That is the kind of broadly the parameters we have set for ourselves. We see demand because that is a mandate from the government also we should support. I mean, it is a kind of a top-up financing product. Over and over and excess, over and
Above.
above the bank finance limit. If your bank limit is exhausted, you can make use of this thing, ECC. So it is a comprehensive factoring product, recourse-free factoring product without any recourse, non-recourse, I would say. It gives financing, it takes care of credit risk, it takes care of collection, it takes care of your ledger maintenance. So everything is being done under one umbrella. That scheme is very good, but at the moment it is restrictive to that segment of the exports manufacturer up to 250 crore. We have a few kind of class customers in that domain. So we'll be looking forward to it, having more customers and adding to this.
So,
People can
Mr.
approach
Sanghvi, Mr. Sanghvi, I hope this answers your question, and you're welcome to approach ACGC if you meet the criteria. I think this will help you. There is a question.
All I can share that I am looking after the charge of that aspect of the operation. So anybody, I am always available if anybody wants to get some kind of information.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. That will help our listeners. There is a question, Mr. Dilip Purohit of Aquatech, and this question is, why is, this is his words, why is ACGC cover not preferred by bankers? They treat it as some sort of statutory evil. They go for it because of RBI stipulation, but given a choice, they don't want it. I mean, I don't agree with this, but I would love your views also.
Yeah, I cannot deny the reality. Of course, we actually, I want to put it in perspective. We do have, as I have told, we do have two lines of product. One is for the banks, another is for the exporters. In exporters thing, we call it policy. In that case, we cover the buyer's risk, failure of the buyer or insolvency of the buyer or the political risk in the destination country. Whereas the bank's product gives support to the banks in order to enable them to extend the export credit to the exporters. So in the case of failure from the exporter, they are unable to repay the loan taken from the bank, we give protection to the bank. So these are the two distinctions. Now, what happens if exporter is having a policy that can be a good collateral for the bank's finance?
Right.
That is how it operates. That is how it should be. But banks at times, because of pricing, because of margin pressure, and sometimes bank feel it may not be useful from the point of view of exporters policy because they already get covered from the ECGC. So they may not insist that cover, but it is always advisable if they take the policy and then they approach the bank for the cover, definitely they will get some kind of relaxation in the terms and conditions, because that is what I am seeing. Of course, it depends on the credit rating of the particular borrower, exporter borrower,
Right.
but ECGC policy helps. And more importantly, if there is a default from the buyer against which he has availed finance from the bank, particular export transaction, if the default from the buyer is, an exporter is eligible from the claim eligible for the claim under the policy. Now, this policy claim will be settled to the exporter's bank account, which will be treated on par as the recovery from the buyer itself.
Right.
That will be an excellent thing, because if you straight away default to the bank, you will be some kind of restrictive list.
Correct.
So your further financing from the bank can be constrained. If you want to see what happens to the borrower if they are defaulting borrower, so their avenues for further bank credit gets very much constricted.
Right.
So with the help of the policy, that can be obviated.
Right. In fact, our chairman, Mr. Mohan Tangsale, the chairman of Rubix, non-executive chairman, he is the former chairman of Central Bank.
I know.
And he is a big advocate for credit insurance. He's always talking about it wherever we are having conversations with companies that are involved in export, saying that please work with your bank also in terms of getting it done. I think, as you explained, I think it has many benefits, and therefore I think should definitely find traction. So, and this is a question which is kind of funny in some sense. Or for the times, is there a possibility that ECGC could lower premium rates during these difficult times? I clearly recognize that this would not be keeping in with the principles of risk-based premium pricing, but such a reduction would be very helpful for the exporting community.
See,
Any thought?
being a government of India will be keen to give some extra benefit to our exporters, but sometimes government extends certain kind of help, so that requires that kind of intervention from the government also. Because on our own, I am telling you, we are unable to give that kind of benefit immediately because of our regulatory constraints. We have to price our product. We have to price our product based on the risk profile. So kind of experience we have got during last 3 years or 5 years, based on which the pricing will be done. So our premium, see, I'm telling you, the problem is that volume to that extent is not increasing because of the uh, informed growth of exports for last 2-3 years.
Right.
Exports are not growing to that extent. See, new exporters are not coming to the market that much.
Correct.
At the same time, in the COVID scenario, the problem is that the overseas markets are also very benign. I would say it is very bad. So
Right.
order cancellation is happening. Reorder level is very low. So growth of exports is a kind of a scenario which is very difficult to perceive at this moment, to see, visualize at this moment. So under the circumstances, if the volume as such with the quality risk is not growing, will be very difficult as a whole. If the portfolio scenario is not improving, as you have mentioned, these big mega buyers, corporations are failing. So we know we have a bulging claim liability this year, and insurance is long tailed. So
Yes.
it will, for 1-2 years, it will be there. My claim liability will be for 1-2 years. So even for 3 years. So it will be difficult for us on our own. We are extending a major premium concession at this stage. But I am not ruling out, because ECGC is a government mandated organization.
Correct.
So if government gives some kind of help somewhere, there could be some possibility.
So perhaps to all those who have asked that question, it would be good to talk to your Export Promotion Council, and you can in turn raise those, request the government for those concessions. And if that gets announced, then ECGC can in the future look at it.
Yeah, I should not be quoted in that way, because
No.
as it is, governments all over the world. I'm telling you, there is a fiscal stimulus to the tune of 12 trillion across the globe. All governments are doing.
Right.
This is also getting support in the form of capitalization.
Correct.
Because we have to keep ourselves solvent all the time. So
Correct.
Government is committed to give us capital all these years. See, I am telling you, our underwriting profit for last 3-4 years is very discouraging because of certain products, certain sectors' performance. So certain sectors are bleeding like anything, like agri sector you take, or gems and jewelry. The problem is always there.
Of course.
So ECGC certain products are really puts a lot of stressful situation, in a sense, in terms of claims payout. So if you see our balance sheet, you will see the claim volume is much more at times than the premium income. So there is where the constraint lies. So if the situation improves, if the risk profile of certain segment is improved, definitely something can be done with the help of government.
So this is a perfect segue. Something that you said is a perfect segue to my next question. It's actually a suggestion that we received from some insurance brokers and a few exporters, sir, that ECGC does not cover the risk of losses incurred if the buyer repudiates the contract during the pre-shipment or the work in progress stage. And as we all know, sir, order cancellations are rampant right now during the pandemic. So if this pre-shipment cover is offered by ECGC to exporters during the pandemic, it will help a lot, especially SME exporters. Your thoughts on whether this could be made possible, sir?
We are seized of the issue. Actually, we are trying to design something like that because this is the demand of the market. As of now, we do not have a product for the short-term segment. We do give cover to the MLT exporters whenever need is for a particular projects, because their requirement is very much tailor-made or something like that. But in short term, we do not have a scheme like this, but we are trying to design a suitable product, because that will have a lot of risk analysis and all these things. So we are trying to design one. Once
Well,
it is
that's
there,
good news.
definitely.
That's good
Once it
news
is,
that you're seized of the situation. So I'm sure there will
we,
be some
you,
resolution.
we are hopeful that something can be designed.
Excellent, sir. So there's a question from Ms. Prerna Kapoor who's attending this. And she writes that as it was shared, ECGC has a scorecard and keeps updating the same for buyers covered by ECGC. Also, all exporters are submitting a quarterly declaration under MBEP policy. Hence, can ECGC give an alarm to the exporter for any buyer who is having the risk of insolvency, liquidity issues, intentional delays in payment, so that exporter can be cautious in doing business with that particular buyer? So can ECGC actually work as an early warnings or provide early warnings to exporters? That's the gist of the question.
See, actually, we have given all the customers, particularly MBPs, that access to our database, VSAL database. So it is the duty of the MBP policy holder to check that database through the login given to them, the antecedent of the buyer, whether he is in that list or not, before making any shipment or even executing any export order. So that is a mandatory condition in the MBP policy. So all exporters should do that. That is all the, see, you'll just have to key in the buyer's name automatically and the country name, automatically the name of the buyer will feature. If it is not there, it's good for our cover. So
Correct.
that at the moment we are giving that kind of facility in general. But if you have got any specific information on any buyer, we give mailers at times. We give mailers to the buyers or our policyholders who are dealing with that.
Thank you, sir. So another question on limit cancellation this time. That during the policy period, whenever a limit is cancelled by ECGC for any reason, then the exporter's credit risk is going uncovered immediately. Exporters are requesting continuation of insurance cover for a period of 30 days from the date of receiving the intimation of cancellation from ECGC. If this is provided, it will help SME exporters to a large extent. So what is your opinion on the possibility of implementing this, sir? Does it make sense? Can it be done, sir?
It makes sense, but I want to explain our procedure, what we follow before we cancel a limit. What happens actually, if somebody reports a default, some exporter reports a default who is holding our policy, we advise the exporter don't make any further shipment without our prior approval. But
Correct.
it may so happen on that buyer, many other exporters hold limit from ECGC.
Right.
See, there are multiple policy holder on a particular buyer. Now, apart from the exporter who has reported default, we do not stop the shipments immediately for the other exporters. We only ask the other exporters what is their experience.
Right.
Now, when we see further default from 2-3 exporters, then we take a decision whether to cancel the limit on all exporters or not. So
Okay.
that is a well-considered decision. But after cancellation, it is mandatory that we won't be covering easily the further shipments with the exporter. That is what is we are following now. So it is
Right.
not overnight cancellation. It's through a process.
Okay, sir. So there is a process. Great. So ECGC is a very respected member. I think it was the first Asian member of the Bern Union, which is the leading global association of export
Founder
credit.
member.
Yes, of investment insurance industry, sir. So how are the members of the Bern Union coming together to fight the disruptions in global trade and caused by the pandemic, sir?
Yeah, I told you, no, the countries are right, left, center. They are giving fiscal monetary stimulus to save their exporters, to save their business entities, particularly small business entities. Now, as far as the Bern Union members are concerned, Bern Union members mainly comprising of the ECS like us. So, and they are the state export credit agency. So they are supported by the state. So
Correct.
ECGC is a government mandated kind of export credit agency. So every country, particularly European, even the Asian and African, everywhere you will have this kind of ECS. Most of the ECS, as far as our information, I can name a few: Denmark, Finland, Germany. Everybody is getting some form of support from the state in terms of writing credit guarantees or the credit insurance
Right.
more in a way to support the small businesses as well as export credit as well as export credit insurance. So that is happening. Like I can tell you, Finland has given support to the extent of 11 billion, or Denmark is 2.4 billion. Hungary is also doing something. UKEF also supporting the MSME exporters export credit. So in that way, it is happening. In that way, it is happening.
So in fact, France also, in my other
France also has done thing. Everybody, I think I can name a few. I do not have the list at the moment. So they are doing very well. I mean, as far as the stimulus is concerned, like some people are increasing the percentage cover.
right.
So instead of 95%, like we are giving it to the in our small exporters policy already, we are giving 95% cover for commercial risk and 100% cover for the political risk. So those kind of help is there already built into our policies. So we are doing it in that way, and all countries are doing.
So we have the last few minutes left. So I wanted to ask you a question that a number of exporters have asked. It's a very practical question.
Yeah, tell me.
What can we do in the current circumstances to convince ECGC to enhance our credit insurance limit so that we can safely transact business? What are the 2 or 3 things that exporters can and should do in this regards?
The exporter can help us if they can report the payment experience repeatedly, particularly MBAP policy holders, because normally MBAP policy do not require frequent reporting of the shipments.
Right.
And we do have quarterly reporting of the exports volume, but I am seeing a lot of non-compliance on the part of the, because it is kind of a, not a mandatory kind of a thing, because your premium is not linked to your reporting of shipment. You pay on the basis of the exposure, which is already underwritten at the time of issuing the policy. So MBEP is a major, I think 40% of our business is catered by this exposure based policies. And there we are at times at the dark as to how much volume of exports have taken place to what buyer, what countries. So if those experience can be shared with us, definitely it will help to get the transactional behavior on that buyer and strengthen our score on that buyer, and we can really take care of the credit limit requirement when we get a kind of a decision information help us to take the decision for enhancement of cover. So that is one thing. Second is that in the case of non-payment, they should promptly inform us what is the nature of non-payment and how it can be resolved. That is more important, because as you know, age of the date is very important and critical to the recovery. So moment there is a delay, as the days are passing by, it will be very difficult to salvage the situation. So prompt information from the part of the exporter is also very important. Or if they can share any kind of information with regard to the behavioral pattern of the buyer or any kind of information about the restructuring process already ongoing on the buyer, that will help us to shape the kind of underwriting decision on that buyer. So exporter should see, we do have a lot of procedural requirement within the policy itself, like reporting of default, sharing the shipment information, declaration of shipment. That should be, they should be regular in that. That is what is my submission to the exporters. And every exporter should take credit limit before they are making shipment. That is, at times there are omission, they forget to take the credit limit. That should not be done.
In fact, sir, I was just going to ask that, as a result of this, the process of approval of the credit insurance limits maybe slower during these times, right? Because of
information.
Yeah. So I think it is imperative that exporters also plan well in advance so that there's no last minute issues that they face and last minute pressure that ECGC also faces because people haven't done it in time.
Even I'm telling you to assure the exporters, I can tell you, see, even if we didn't see, many times we get credit information agency report where we do not get much material information about the entity. Right. Because you go to USA or UAE or anywhere, you don't get the financial reports. Mostly in case of LLP kind of organization or something like that. Right. So our information with regard to the experience with ECGC with the buyer, if that can be shared, it can be very useful for fixing limit on these kind of entities. We do not deny. We rather help when we get some information on that buyer about the past track record under the policies. So that helps us.
So, in fact, that always brings you to the point that any information is good information. Even if it is bad news, it is important
That is
for
also
us
good.
to
That is
share.
also good.
Yeah,
See,
absolutely.
one is underwriting the risk, another is containing the exposure. So
Right.
you should not take toxic exposure. This exposure from the point of view of the exporter, I'm telling. See,
Right.
is exporter. The exporter also not resort to do any business. He should not be desperate enough to do business with somebody who is not good enough to repay.
And that unfortunately is likely to, you've actually been very prescient in saying this, as a consequence to, when your factory is operating at 40, 30%, 50%, when you get an order, it is like you're so excited, we have to do this.
Yeah, everybody should take a conscious decision. That is what I would request while they are executing export order or anything like that.
Messages that you'd want to give the exporter community at large?
No, sorry, I think there was a disruption. I could hear you the full
No.
part.
Okay, sir. So what I was saying is, any message that you want to give the exporting community at large. This has been a masterclass by you on export credit insurance. So, but any message that you want to give them that gives them the strength to go through this period?
Yeah, my first thing will be like that: stay safe and do safe business only. And in order to remain safe, you need the help of organizations like ECGC. So we will help you to do the business in a safe way. So as much as possible, avail our services. We are there. It is like, I mean, somebody who is not feeling the utility, they should test us and see what is the utility. Because taste of the pudding when you eat it. Like if you don't eat it, how do you know?
Absolutely.
My humble request will be like that. Give us a chance to support your exports. In the process, we can do business, which is a winning proposition for ECGC as well as for us and for exporters.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Das. This has been truly, as I said, a masterclass in export credit insurance. I'm really grateful on behalf of Rubix and on behalf of all our exporters. Thank you very much for giving us your time. I know it's a very busy period. So thank you once again, and look forward to
My
you soon.
pleasure. My pleasure. And thank you to you and Mr. Ramaswamy and all the exporters and participants who have given me a patient hearing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe.